All right, so we have our Allen drivers. So mainly the two that we use are gonna be the 1.5 and the 2.0. We have some new PTFE tube, and we have some good sharp cutters for that PTFE tube. These are nice because they do not crush the PTFE when you're cutting it. So we're gonna start by removing the roll of filament that's here. Unfortunately, we're just gonna have to cut it because it's really wound up underneath there. So, some cutters. All right, so I'm just gonna cut this to remove that spool. And now when you first get an AMS, there's two screws. There's one here and one here that you have to take out before you can lift this up. I've taken these apart so much that once I take them out, I don't put those screws back in. Some people do, I don't do it. All right, so we're gonna lift up from these ribs here. We're gonna pull the back up first, tipping the top down. We wanna make sure we do it nice and gentle. And now when we get to this point, we just kind of got to push down that little tab that was holding the PTFE tube. Push that down, pull it all towards us, and we don't want to pull it all the way out because there's cables underneath that are holding it together. So I'm going to pull it, I'm going to slide it up like this, and there's all that filament mess there. Look at that, what a mess. All right, so now you can see those two cables. We've got a power and we've got a communications cable. Normally this little, I think it's a ferrite, is popped up inside of there. I'll move you guys over a little bit so you can see a little bit better. It's popped up onto there just like that. Sometimes I can get it to stay in there, sometimes I can't, so it's kind of hit or miss. So now's a good time to pull out any of the pieces and chunks that you see in here, random filament chunks that fall out. What I like to do is I like to pull these out from the board here. I just grab a hold and pull them straight up. Now, sometimes these might have a little dab of silicone on them that you might have to cut free to get those connectors to come out. All right, now the whole top of the AMS is free to come out. Again, like I said, good time to take stock into what's in here and just kind of clean that out. I'll clean the bench off when we're done. Now I'm going to set the AMS body over there out of my way. And now we have kind of the internals of the AMS. So this one over here is the one that broke through first. So I'm going to grab my screwdriver. I'm going to push on the connector down there. I'm going to pull up on the tube. That's going to free the tube. Now you can see exactly what happened to that. So you can see the filament goes in here. Get a chunk of this filament so you can see it a little better. This filament goes in this tube, but then it just comes right back out again. So it just wore itself through that whole section right there. So we're going to replace all four of these just because they all wear at pretty much the same rate, depending on your use. We generally use more than one spool at a time when we're printing on these, so they generally wear at the same rate for us. These are different lengths, the outsides versus the insides. So when you're replacing them, you want to make sure that the outside ones are longer and the inside ones are shorter. Whenever I do this, I always take one off. I hold it up against my new piece. I hold the ends together, and then I measure down to where I need it to be. And now I'm going to line the blade up against the old one, and I'm just going to kind of rock that back and forth a little bit, and it cuts the brand new one just like that. That one's garbage, brand new one. I'm going to plug it in up here first, and then I'm going to plug it back in down here into the base. So this is your 4-to-1. This has got another motor on it too that ultimately drives your filament out of the AMS. You've got 4 motors, which is what all of these different connectors are for. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and go through and replace all 4 of these PTFE tubes. That one's wearing through. You can kind of see it. You can see that like line that runs down the middle of it. Hasn't quite broken through yet, but I know it's going to before too long. So I'm just gonna go through and replace it right now so I don't have a headache later on and have to do this all over again. Now, very rarely will I choose not to replace the PTFE tube while I'm in here, just because that's yet again another time I have to tear this whole thing apart and put it all back together again. As you can see, it doesn't take a ton of time. It's a pretty simple fix. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Leave your questions in the comments. Send us a message, and we'll get those answered. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up, and I'll come back when we are wrapping everything up.